Hi, I'm Bob Balla. Today I'm introducing Leonce Gintzburger, who is a good friend of mine in the French Army. I first met Leonce in 1969 at Fort Sill, Oklahoma, when he was the French exchange officer, and we became very good friends that year and served subsequently at Fort Leavenworth, Kansas in the 1970s. So Leonce surprised me and donated a paver to our Veterans Monument for me, so I did the reciprocal for him. And then we sent him the email to sign up and do an interview, and he said, "How do I do that from France?" And I said, "Well, I'll be your surrogate." So Leonce was commissioned from the French Military Academy Saint-Cyr in 1960 as an artillery officer. He went to his artillery school, served some time in Algeria, which was not a very good time in the early 60s. Subsequently came back to some more training and served in an Honest John unit in Germany. He had a terrible accident in 1963 and was hospitalized for 2 years. And during that hospitalization, he lost his leg. He stayed in the French Army, returned to the artillery, spent some more time with units in Germany, actually. The French had an occupation zone in Germany up until the end of when the wall came down. And Leonce was selected to be the French exchange student at the course where I met him at Fort Sill. And he went back, served more time in artillery, came to Fort Leavenworth. In the interim time, he was also the G2 of the Berlin Brigade or the French sector for Berlin. So he was an intelligence officer there. But he came back and served in Leavenworth, went back, served again in artillery units, then ended up with a tour as the reception commander for a reception battalion in France. These were for the draftees, French draftees or French volunteers that came in to the service and went through their basic training. He didn't do basic training, but he did the reception part of it, which was their initial in-processing testing. He finally promoted colonel and was also an instructor at the German German Staff College. He spoke German fluently. You might guess from his last name, he's part German. He's actually from the Strasbourg part of France, which has been German and French for some time. So he taught for 3 years at the German Führungs Academy in Hamburg. And then he went to New Zealand as the French attaché to New Zealand and spent some time in the Southwest Pacific. Came back, and his last assignment was as the deputy commander of one of the French military districts in France. Great friend. We've been to his place a couple of times in France. He's been here a couple of times since his retirement. When he went to Leavenworth, he graduated as the #1 Allied student in the class, which was quite an accomplishment because it usually went to the Germans or somebody else. So I've been honored to have him. One of the things that left an impression with Leonce was he was 8 years old when the United States and Britain and the Canadians landed at Normandy. And he will never forget that as a child. He wasn't living in that part of France, but he's a very strong supporter of French-American friendship clubs in France, the Lafayette Club. He's past president of the Lafayette Club of Arcachon, France, and just feels that very strong bond with the United States that a lot of Frenchmen feel. The Lafayette connection, and then the fact that America came twice in the 20th century to save France.